Well, good afternoon. How are you this fine and hopefully sunny where you are? UK afternoon. My name's Christine and I shall be your guide today, all about a little session about how to get started with analytics. So what do we need to know? First up, we're delivering this session today in partnership with our wonderful friends at Wenta. So on behalf of everyone here at the Google Digital Garage, we are so proud to be part of our ongoing partnership with Wenta. We welcome those of you who've joined us because Wenta have invited you. And if you haven't heard about Wenta yet, do feel free to give them a bit of a search and check out everything they're doing. As I say, they've been a long time partner of ours here at the Google Digital Garage. So today we are talking about, as I say, analytics and measurement. I'm a marketeer by trade. So I've been working in marketing since before it was digital. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're not measuring, you are not marketing. So when I first started, one of the things we used to, kind of obsess about actually was devising measurement systems so we could decide if what the work we were doing was having any kind of an impact at all. Fast forward a few years, I'm not going to share how many, but fast forward a few years and the wonderful thing about being able to do digital marketing is that it allows us to measure not just our online activity, but actually now if we're doing offline activity, we can quite often find a way to work that back in and talk about and find some measurement systems there as well. So that's what today's sessions are going to be about. I did notice there was a question already from Andrew. So if you want to get involved with us all through today, you can jump on into the chat and ask your questions. I've got my good friend Daryl is the moderator for us today. Daryl's in the chat right now. He is going to be asking questions of you, dropping you links that might be of use to you. He'll also be answering some of the questions as we go through. What he'll also do is, as we go through the session, I'm going to pause as we go through and Daryl will send me over some of your questions that he thinks would be good for the whole group to hear the answer to, and we'll try and get to as many of those we can throughout the session. Question, I think it was from Andrew, was whether this was covering GA4. Now, Andrew, I don't want to disappoint you. Today is it's a get started. It's an introduction to analytics, and we're going to touch upon lots of different ways of measurement, lots of different systems, how you would approach thinking about measurement. In a way, the tool that you then use to measure, is a little bit not irrelevant. You choose the tool to match the situation. So although we will at the end take a little bit of a look at analytics, Google Analytics, Web Analytics, it's not an in-depth, let's get you going with Google Analytics 4. There are tons of resources out there if it's Google Analytics 4 specifically you're after. Today isn't, if you've already got your account and already have an idea of it, it's going to be much more about the thought processes that go into designing a measurement system rather than an in-depth training session on GA4. And if you have no idea what I have just talked about for the last minute or so, don't worry at all, because today is really a getting started session, how to approach designing your own measurement systems. So let's see, sorry, I got sidetracked. That happens to me quite a lot. Don't worry about it. We will get back on track. So I've introduced our lovely moderator, Daryl. Daryl, as I say, one of our Google Digital Garage coaches as well. He's got a little blue spanner next to his name, and that's how you know that you're speaking to our moderator. To join in and speak to Daryl, you are going to need to be logged in to your YouTube account so that you can join in with the chat. If you aren't seeing the chat at the moment anywhere around your screen, it's probably because you're not logged in. So pop up to the right-hand side up there and you need to either sign up or sign in to your YouTube account. If you don't have one, dead quick to create one. By the time I finish the intros, I'm sure you'll be back with us. It's really worth joining in, getting those questions asked, and we will, as I say, answer as many of them as we can. You might just want to prove that you are with us, prove that you're paying attention, and jump in and say hi to Daryl. Let him know maybe what inspired you to join us this afternoon, because it wasn't, I'm hoping where you are, it wasn't that it was just a bit of a rubbish afternoon. You could easily be outside enjoying the sunshine. So why did you choose to spend this hour learning about analytics? What are you hoping to get from the session? And, maybe a little bit about you. If you have a business, a little bit about your business. If you're learning for yourself, what are you trying to achieve? I'm not just asking to get, Daryl some people to talk to. It's really about the more we know about you, the more we can tailor what we talk about to you. And it'll also make sure that we keep the programme relevant to what people want as we move forward. I just seen as well that somebody's asking about rewatching. Yeah, so today we are live on YouTube. Pinch me, I'm live. It's all good, but we will keep this session live for you for about 24 hours. I would strongly suggest that you start with me now and watch all the way through to the end of the stream. You could pause the stream and rewatch any bits as we went through, but then you're going to lose the live element of it, which means you won't be able to ask your questions in the chat. So if you are rewatching, the best thing to do is to use the link that you used to get to me today. We'll keep this link live for about 24 hours till about lunchtime-ish tomorrow. You can click on that link that you used to get to us today, and then you'll be able to rewatch the session. You won't be able to join in with the chat. If you are watching us from the future, then hello, welcome. I'm glad you came back. Best thing to do, though, if you're watching me live, if you get to the part that you think, aha, that's what I need to know, jot down the time code. When you jot down the time code, you're going to be able to jump back to the section that's any use to you. Okie dokie. Other final thing to let you know is that we are running this Google Digital Garage virtual training as part of our broader offering of courses. So we've got broadcasts, we've got course, we've got lots of ways that you can get involved with some extra learning. We are part of the Grow with Google suite, so there's a lot going on, including some deeper courses in Google Analytics. So lots for you to be getting into. Check out the link, it's in the description below, and that is going to help you find out what else we are up to. So today, as I say, this isn't going to be a teaching course on how to use Google Analytics 4, but it's all about taking a step back and a step up and really kind of almost agnostic to your measurement system. I want you to be thinking about your data in a way that it's about thinking about what kinds of questions to ask to get good answers from your data. All right, so I want to make sure you are measuring the right things. And how do you know what the right things are? Well, you don't yet. There are no universal correct answers as to what's the right thing to measure, what's the right thing to do. So it's all about the way you approach it as a thinking exercise. So we'll think about what the kinds of questions you could answer from your data, how to go about starting to think about your data in that way. Then we'll look at some of the different tools that are out there. The minute that we approve our slides and get our training sessions out there, something else comes along. You know at the minute that, and one of the reasons loads of people do join us is that things change at such a pace. You know, you can take a couple of weeks off over the summer and it feels like you're coming back to a whole new array of tools. So we'll look at some of the tools you might choose to measure for the different questions that you're trying to answer. And then we're going to have a little bit of a look at how you might go about that with Google Analytics 4. So with Google Analytics, those who aren't aware of what it is, it's a way of measuring your website. And the reason it's not the be-all and end-all anymore, a few years ago when this all kind of started, pretty much the data that you could get from your own website was all you'd be able to get. But times have moved on. There are lots of different places you can get data from right now. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at as we go through. Just wanted to highlight, though, and one of the reasons that, one of the resources available to you is, as well as these broadcasts, I really hope you find it helpful. But if you want to get a bit more in depth, if it, as quite often happens with data, the more questions you get answers to, quite often the answers come in the form of more questions. If you have more questions after that, you might want to sign up for a free one-to-one mentoring session from Google. These are available for people who are based here in the UK and who are representing either a small business or a charity. When we say small business, that could be your startup idea, could be your kitchen table business, all the way through to employing, a small number of people as well. Sessions are completely free and they're to help you one-to-one on a range of digital skills. So when you get those extra questions, you can come back and we will help guide you to find your answers. We won't do anything for you. It really is a question of, providing you an extra brain to have a bit of a conversation with. You can sign up for that at g.co/UK. mentoring. All right. That's enough of the preamble. Let's take a bit of a dive into those questions. So we're thinking about the most important questions that you might be asking yourself that you can start to think about answering using the data available. We're particularly thinking about businesses and lots in particular about how you are doing online. Although, as I say, one of my favorite things is even if you are doing offline marketing, your brochures, your trade shows, how are you going to measure the impact of those things using your data that you can glean online? All right. So for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to be, probably actually for the rest of the session, we're going to be thinking about a 4-step framework, all right? And it's all about getting to really hone in on the right questions to help you get good answers that are going to help you make good business decisions, all right? You're not going to get there straight away. And, the next 50 minutes, you probably won't have all the answers at your fingertips, but it's about this thought process. Also going to say this isn't a one-time job, tick off and it's done. This really should be an ongoing, as I say, I do use the word for myself when I'm working in marketing with obsession, really, getting the good answers from the data, because good answers from good data will help us make good business decisions. So we're going to start off with our objective. What is it we actually want to achieve as a business? Then we'll take a little bit of a look at what questions would do we have to address that the answers to would help us to see how far we're getting towards that objective. So we'll start thinking about how we can phrase the questions almost in order to get the best answers. Once we know the questions we want to ask and the answers we're hoping to glean, then's when we start to think about, okay, well, what sources of data do I have? And there are more sources of data out there than you might immediately be aware of. So we'll take a bit of a look at some of the different sources of data. And then, well, what do you actually do? With all that theoretical knowledge, how do you actually go about making good business decisions? But as I say, today is just a getting started. We're not going to answer every single question that you're ever going to have. It's all about today really starting to get some confidence up. So by the end of the day, I want you to have the next couple of steps, the next couple of things that you're going to do with your data, with your analytics. All right, so we're looking at an overarching framework. So let's start with that objective. We need to start thinking about what the objectives for our business are in order that we can make sure that the questions we're asking and the data we are gathering really is relevant to what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so there are so many things you could measure using data from the internet. And it's actually a lot of the time there's some things that are super easy to measure, likes and shares and total visits, that sort of kind of high level data. But as somebody has very quite recently pointed out, your business can't pay the bills with likes. You can't pay your mortgage with exposure. And it's about really starting to work out for you, what is your business trying to achieve? How do we know which way we're heading? So lots and lots of things you could track and you could measure using data from the internet. So really it's about, well, what is the most useful measure for you? All right. So first thing to do is to work out what you want to achieve as a business. Lots of businesses want to sell more things. Okay. When we boil it down, that's probably what most businesses want to do. But unless you have a business where you have fairly short sales cycle, you're selling ice cream on a hot day, get your price right, get your location right, and measure the sales. If you were, an online shop where you ship boxes of something somewhere, yes, you can absolutely measure those end product sales. But it's very rare that a business goes straight from nobody knowing about you to selling some things. Very rare indeed. So most businesses have steps towards the sale. So the first thing you might want to think about is although these kind of, we put them 1 to 4, depends where you are in your business cycle right now? Are you at the stage where you need to tell more people about your business? Or do you have people who know about you that you actually, but they're not making those sales? So depending on what you want to achieve as a business is where you might start to focus your data requirements, your questions that you're answering. So say your objectives were to identify the most valuable customers. So you can spend more time working with those. All right, well, we can definitely use data to do that. Finding new ways to engage with previous companies. Is what I'm doing having the impact I want it to have? So thinking about your business first without worrying too much about how you're going to get that data. What do you want to achieve? Okay, so your online objectives should absolutely tie in with what your general overall business goal is, but it doesn't always have to be the finished thing that you're measuring. You might know that if you can get somebody to fill out a form, or you can get them to pick up the phone to you and ask for a quote, that you know you've got a great product or you've got great service, that you can, convert 70% of those phone calls into sales. Okay. So how do your objective for your online is not to sell more things, it's to get more phone calls. So start breaking down your business in that way and see if we could start to think about those real key objectives that are going to make a difference to your business. If you want to do a bit more of that objective defining, we actually cover that in our digital marketing strategy session in a bit more detail. So do feel free to check out the schedule linked in the description below. I will let you know that there isn't much going on for the rest of August. Most of the Google Digital Garage is taking a well-earned break. We're definitely going to come back with a flourish, though, come September. So it might be that you have to wait a few weeks, but you can use that in time to do your own online learning, your own independent learning as well. But check out the schedule below. When that updates, we'll have when we're talking about digital marketing strategy. And I actually think these two sessions go really well together. If you haven't seen it already, it's a great one to join us for. Okay, so think about your business objectives. When you know what your business, when you've broken it down into the steps that your business is taking, it's almost like that sales funnel idea. The more people you shove in at the top, how do we then churn them through, get the yummy sales out of the bottom? So in order to get the right data, you are going to need to frame the questions you ask. If, for example, I were to say to myself, right, what I want to do is measure likes or shares, the behavior of measuring those likes and shares because they're easy to manage might actually not drive sales. If my objective is sales, okay, well, how am I going to break that down and ask the right questions? Which questions are going to be the right? So just getting more likes may well not get me, and you've got to be, your measurement system will drive the business's behavior. When you start to measure something, you actually often change it. So if I'm saying, right, we're going to measure likes, then everything around us goes to measuring likes. I'm going to put up cat videos or pictures of my lunch, or, funnies and sharing of things. If they're not going to help me sell my industrial widgets, then it's not going to do me any good. So really thinking about the questions we need to ask. Okay, so we can think of the questions we ask in a similar way to our sales funnel. Okay, so if we think about our sales funnel or our customer journey, however you're doing it, the first thing we probably need to do is reach out to people. Okay, we need to reach them somehow so that they begin to be aware of who we are. And then there'll be questions around there. When we have reached them, they are maybe aware of us. The next stage, in order to make them customers, the next sorts of things we want to be able to do is getting those right people to engage with us, to help them to, as it says, find what they need. What do they need? Well, that might be another question. You could look at, of the people who look at these things, which have the most propensity to buy, for example. So we can start to really break down the questions we're going to ask as to whether we're trying to reach people, whether we're trying to engage with them, when they're ready to make that purchase or we're ready to make that sale or take that action. It doesn't have to be just a sale. It might be picking up that phone, filling out that form, saying they're going to volunteer with us, come along to find out some more info about whatever it is we're doing. Lots of different situations that this applies to. So we want to reach out to them, engage with them, get them to take that action, activate them, and then nurture them. Different business models all tend to fit into this one. Even if the nurture, you might be that you get repeat sales. You might be a kind of business that has repeat sales, and so many businesses with repeat sales tell us that, you know, it's much easier to look after somebody you've already found as a customer and keep them happy and get them to purchase again than it is to find new customers all the time. You might have a business that doesn't have that model, but it is fairly flexible. Can we get them to come back again? If we can't get them to come back again, can we get them to recommend us? You know, so different business models, it fits out to different. And we're going to call this our reach, engage, activate, nurture. And that's where we're thinking. And when we look at some of the ways of getting that data back, we'll refer back to this format. Okay, so the kinds of questions we might ask around reaching. Right, so we've got to reach out and find people. So how are we finding them? How are those people made aware of us? Which of the people of all the people in the world, which of them have, you know, an interest for what we are talking about? So how do they find us, or how do we find them? Then we might have things about, okay, target customers, we have a well-defined, you know, we know that people, you know, a certain age range or a certain interest at a certain point in their life, something happens, they want to, that we have a, you know, they have a question that we have a good answer for. What are the questions they're asking? What are they searching for that we would show up for? I worked with so talking about search, and there are lots of ways you can start measuring how well you're doing in search, which we'll take a bit of a look at. I worked with a business, and they were very excited that they started coming up on the first page of Google, which is brilliant, except the term they were coming up for was so very, very specific to them that actual customers weren't really searching for it. So what are people searching for? You know, when they are ready to buy, when they're ready to find a business like you. All right. So these are the kinds of questions that might be of real value to ask yourself. You won't be able to, you know, cover all the questions we're going to talk about, but start thinking in this way. So if I'm trying to reach out, I want to be thinking, right, I'm reaching out to them, or they are reaching me and finding me somehow. What are they looking for? What are they searching for? Who are they? And then once they find you, so we've got them in that front door, we've imagined they found our shop, okay? Or they found our website, or they found our presence online. What are we saying that's of interest? What's grabbing their attention? Is there something that we're doing that's better than other things? And this is where we do a lot of comparing. You know, we run experiments. We might say, okay, I'm going to put out some video and I'm going to put the same information out in a different format. Which one is more engaging to our audience? So what do they want to know? You know, if we have frequently asked questions, what are those questions that people ask? How are we going to give them an engaging answer? If I put tons of different communications out, I'm doing social, I'm doing email, I'm working in search, not just how much volume of, you know, how many people see each one, but who starts engaging? Which channel are people most likely to engage with? And really thinking back to that idea of, you know, the idea of, you know, the people coming up with the correct questions, you know, putting out cat videos, well, it's going to drive behavior. But the behavior I want to drive is they actually go and take that action of a sale. So that falls forward and pulls all the way through into those activate questions. So which of those channels, we might get hundreds of people through from socials or email or search or wherever, but which one is actually leading to the bookings? And that's when you start to really get the payoff. If I do more of what works, I can do less of what doesn't. And can I see the improvement then in that objective that we're looking for? And who are the actual customers? Not just of everybody who would love to buy your products or could potentially buy your products or your services or engage with your business or your organization. Which of the ones that are actually of value to you? What do you learn about them? And as I say, quite often the answers to these questions lead on to more questions. And then there's what happens after that sale. Do we just throw them off a cliff once we've sold them their bits? Or can we monitor their feedback? Can we monitor their sentiment? Can we think about whether they go about and recommend us, leave us reviews, get those 5-star reviews up? The more 5-star reviews, then the more with the right kind of people, that's going to help you with a real business value. And it's something that's measurable. Do they come back and buy again if that's the kind of business I am? Refer to their friends, whatever it is, engage with me longer term. They are your nurture questions. What's happening after that sale? There again, the more you can do of the nurturing side, the much more likely you are to hopefully have a sustainable long-term business. Okay, so let me check in with Daryl and see how things are going where he is. All righty, so questions-wise, brilliant. Okay, my questions seem to have disappeared. Give us 2 seconds. Let's just do this. You'll have to forgive me. I have about 4 million windows open in my brain, actually, at the minute. So, can see there's no particular questions Yep. We've got loads of people joining us. Understanding analytics for small businesses, resources that all that Daryl's been able to help you and deal with. So that's great. I'm going to carry on and start about thinking about the tools that we can use. All right. So different tools for different questions and different tools for different businesses. It's going to depend on actually what you're doing as a business. So the third question is, where do I get my information from? Tons of tools out there that you could use. All right. Really importantly. So start thinking about all the places that you are online. Most of the places where you have a presence online, or you could have a presence online, there are ways to measure it. So here we've got socials. Social media has so much available to measure. And actually with social media, it really is more than any other platform about picking out the things that are of real importance. Okay. Then we might have, our search. We've mentioned search a bit already. So we have 2 types of search, organic search and paid search. That will come into things like if you're running ads in shopping, if you're running ads, or you're dealing with all kinds of different places that you could be found. Where's your spend working out? If you want to learn more about search, we do have a couple of webinars, as you'd imagine, on search and on being found, really importantly. You can find a little bit more about those in our description below on the website. Then there's your own website, okay? Any click that somebody makes on your website, then that's measurable if you've got the right tools set up. So let's have a quick look at this. So social media, as I say, any platform that's a social media platform that is hoping that people, what's this social media platform trying to do? It's trying to get eyeballs on its page. It is trying to get you to spend your time, spend your money on its platform. So they literally, if you have a business page on any of the social media platforms, they want you to spend money with them and spend time on them. So they are going to give you lots and lots of information to help you make that decision to stay with them. Okay, so check out, if you already have a business page on any social media platform, they are giving you social media page insights. One of the problems that we have is that they all do it differently. So really get to know the platform you're using, spend some time with it, try and understand. What we're going to talk about in a little while when we do look at web analytics is really going to help you with all of these different ways of doing analytics. The reason really that we focus on Google Analytics a little bit in our final section is not just that it is, one we're quite familiar with, but it is because it is fairly complex. If you can crack the web analytics, then you can really apply that thinking wherever on the web it is you want to measure. So with social media page insights, you're looking about, are you even on the right platforms? The first question might be, what are the right platforms for you? With different people going to different platforms for different reasons, engaging you in different places. You be looking at, we don't even need to have our own website anymore to have a good online business. You could manage it all through social media, selling sites, getting people to get those quotes from you, direct contact. You can measure all those steps within your social media as well, if that's what's right for you, for your businesses, for your customers. Okay. Now, I mentioned one of the things that you could measure is Google search, or other search engines are available. So the Google Search Console is a tool that links to your website, and then it shows you how you are doing in search. It integrates into your Google Analytics. You can pull terms from your thing. So if you think before somebody even gets to your website, they might be searching to find you. Loads of those questions all about, what search terms are finding me? That's great. You can see the terms you win on and pull that into your analytics. With Search Console, you could also think, there are terms that I would think I was a good answer for that I don't seem to be being found for. And then you might look at ways to, and Google Search Console is a phenomenally powerful tool. It gives you hints. It tells you what you can do to improve your site to make yourself more search friendly. And it really does give you a great handle on where you're winning, which is great to know, but also you might spot gaps there that we're going to help you. Your next question will be, what can I do to improve to be found in these terms that I think I should be? Okay, so Google Search Console, there's no charge to use that. A bit of technical wizardry to add it to the back end of your website. You then have to give it a little bit of time to do its reports, but it's a really phenomenally powerful and kind of underused tool, actually. Everyone's heard of analytics, people have heard of ads, but they haven't always heard of Search Console, but it is a great one to be using. Then some of you might have a business where you serve customers in your location, whether that's bringing them to you or whether you go out in the local area and spend time with them. Another kind of business that a few years ago we wouldn't really necessarily have been able to measure so well unless you had your own website and were bringing people to your website that you could then see whether they'd found you. With your Google Business Profile, which manages your presence on Google Search and Google Maps, you can there again see what happens to people, not just before they get to your website, but are they picking up the phone to call you? Are they getting directions to your store? Where are they coming from? What kinds of days and times? And can you just send those visits up? The more people the better you can write that content, improve your presence. Can you use that to measure the fact that you're getting those 5-star reviews coming through? Lots of information. It's the insights within the Google My Business the Google Business Profile. Shows up again across Google Search and Maps. Really phenomenally powerful tool. If you don't have this already and you are a business that serves customers in your local area, then we've got a webinar called Get Your Business Visible on Google, which is all about search. We also have one that's really well named Find Customers with Google Maps. All right. It's for maps, it's for search, and it takes you through the Google Business Profile. So that might be a good next step. I told you we were going to be asking more questions, giving you more homework, but it's a great, phenomenal tool to be able to use as well. And then we have Google Analytics. And I do deliberately take a little bit of a breath there because Google Analytics is a hugely powerful tool. It's quite often what will happen with Google Analytics is it measures so much that people take one look at it and think, that's really scary. They close their laptop, they go off and do something else. They'll do something that's a bit easier to get their head around. But it's the most popular website analytics tool for some good reasons. For a start, it's free to use. Secondly, it basically, if you have a website and you want to know how well your website is doing, then logical step is to measure the clicks that people take on your website. And Google Analytics, as I say, is free. It's a phenomenally powerful tool. I can't think of a business case where somebody has had a data need around their website that Google Analytics hasn't been able to give them an answer to. So we will take a good close look at Google Analytics, probably for the rest of the session. As I say, though, this isn't going to be a tutorial. There is no way in the next 20 minutes I could teach you everything you need to know about Google Analytics. What I want you to do, what I want to help you to do, is to get a bit of confidence. You know, it's very difficult to break the internet. So give you that confidence that this is something that's within, and give you the motivation that it is something that you might want to do. Okay, just going and check in again with Darryl, see how things are going out there. I can see that he hasn't popped me any questions, so that's all right. Good. I always take, I can see that it's busy in the chat. So I always take the fact that there aren't any questions, that you must all be happy, you must all be understanding everything I'm saying. So I take that. I take no questions as a positive from my personal take. But if you do want to ask those questions, do get involved. That's absolutely great. We will take one more pause for questions in about 20 minutes or so. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this tool called Google Analytics, because we've had a thought about, what we want to achieve as a business. We've thought about, okay, the kinds of things that I might need to ask in order to work out whether I'm moving towards my goal, whether the tasks I'm doing, whether the marketing I'm doing, whether the sales activity, lead generation, or reaching out to beneficiaries or reaching out to volunteers, whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve as a business. So when we know the questions we want to ask, we've had a thought about, okay, well, where might I get the data from? We need to put those two things together to really start to answer some of those questions that we have. So as I've mentioned, we will use Google Analytics as an example, but it's more so than ever now, it's about using whichever tool is the right one for your business. It is perfectly possible to have a good online presence without needing to do a lot on your own website. Some people just have the website, so if somebody searches for them directly, they find them, but actually, almost like a business card. But actually, the real marketing they're doing is elsewhere. That's all perfectly okay, and it should all be perfectly measurable for you as well. So we've come to step 4 on our framework, which is, well, what do I actually do with the information? What on earth do I do with that information even? Okay, so let's have a look at this now. Okay, here's the first thing I've spotted is that I know some of you eagle-eyed people who maybe have already tried Google Analytics might start to notice that some of the screenshots that I have on my slides today are actually a little out of date. First thing is they change, and it's like a lot of tools on the internet. Basically, they are in a almost constant work going on them to make them better, more important, more user-friendly. So that said, some of the slides I'm going to show you, if we have time later, what I might do is pull up analytics as it looks right now. But if when we're going through, you look at something, oh, mine doesn't look quite like that, don't worry too much about it. That's because what actually happened from a technical point of view is some of these screenshots are from the old version of analytics. So we have, that was called Universal Analytics. We're now on GA4, Google Analytics 4, which you might have heard quite a lot about. You might never have heard about it either. Don't feel bad if that's the case. It's just, it's one of those things that, as often happens, every so often, a new version of something comes along. And that's what's gone on with here. But as apologies that we do have. However, the thinking behind it is still very, very similar, even if some of the technicalities are a little bit different. Okay, so I mentioned already that when you open up Google Analytics, it can feel a little overwhelming. Now, one of the things that you might find actually, if you have been looking at analytics before, is, in fact, let me pull this over rather than you looking at that. This is our demo account. Let's pull this in for you. Right. So don't worry that these numbers are ginormous compared to the numbers that most of us as small business. I am pulling across live data. So I'll cross my fingers that nothing goes wrong. Live data for you from the Google Merchandise Store. So this is a live online shop. It's probably unlikely that when you open your Google Analytics, which is measuring your website, it's very unlikely that you're going to have 15,000 users in the 7 days and 53,000 conversions, but we can use this data just to give you an idea. The first thing you're going to see when you log in is going to be some dashboards. And the best thing, if you've used the old version of Google Analytics and then you come onto this newer version, is it's using artificial intelligence to tailor the reports. So whereas before, and some of the screenshots I'll show you as you go through, it says you have to go to this menu title and this place and that place, it's starting to remember what you've looked for. And if this is your most used report, it will show you that report when you first come in. So one of the things people always used to complain about was there was so much to look at that how would I know what to look at? And it was difficult to find things every time. So as I say, it can be a bit overwhelming. You're not the only person who've ever felt like that. So much information there. We are really going to think about what to do with the information. Okay, few things to think about. You have up here a search bar. You can ask this search bar questions in kind of plain English, and it will use that intelligence to try and find you the answers. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. When we have, so let's go into a report and let's just see if I can see them. When we have a term that we might not, don't worry, I'm literally looking through to try and find you a report that will show what I'm talking about. Let's go into any old report. What sometimes happens, if I can find it, is I'm only finding blank reports, typical. Sometimes when you go into any kind of report, you might find that there's question marks. Okay, so there are some terms down here, okay? And Google Analytics has a language all of its own. I've got here, if you can see, I have got users and sessions and engaged sessions and average engagement time per session. What does it all mean? Well, actually, as I hover over any of those terms that are just underlined there, what happens, if you can see, is I get a little there. The users is the total number of active users. All right, let's see if I can do it with this funny thing. Sessions, go on. The number of sessions that began on your site or app, and then you can learn more about them. So it's got an inbuilt tool to help you. So hover over any terms you don't understand. It will help you with the language for that, okay? So for instance, we see quite a lot of time, we might have visits and visitors. We might have users and engaged sessions per users. They all have slightly different meanings. So one of the first things you might need to do is start to get your head around the language. All right, I could talk to you all day about that. Let's carry on and just have a look at the things. So setting up a Google Analytics, head to your search bar. If you don't have an account already, you're going to have to head over to Google Analytics, analytics.google.com. You will need to sign up, sign in. I always suggest, top tip here is use the same account for Google Analytics as you use for all of your business stuff on Google. So that might be Analytics, you might have one Google Ads, use the same account for that. You don't have to have a Gmail account to have a Google account. You can log in with your business email address, create an account for your business that has your analytics. In future, you might want to run ads, Google Search Console, tie all of that information to a business account, a business email. And that's going to help you to be found across the whole different platforms, all those different places. So head over to that. You choose a name for your account. So this is going to start with probably just your one website. But what if you have different websites? You might have an app and a website. Google Analytics 4 was designed because the way we use the internet has evolved. It's more complicated. We might have, pick up our phone and then pick up where we left off on our laptop later. So lots of complexity being built in because of how we use the internet. This is going to help us. And you probably want to choose the industry category. This is to help you benchmark. It aggregates and anonymizes the data, but allows you to compare. So for instance, say I run a B&B. Okay. I want to probably choose a category to do with tourism, hospitality, accommodation, that sort of thing. So I'm not comparing against fast-moving retail or, against some other kind of dishwasher manufacturers. Different businesses behave in different ways. The customers to different businesses behave in different ways. And then what you'll be able to do later is benchmark against not just other hotels, because if I was a small B&B, it's going to look nothing like a huge international chain. I'll be able to restrict and look at other people in the accommodation sector who maybe have certain similarities with me. And then it starts us to help ask the questions which we all get asked. What is a good number for? What is a good bounce rate? What is a good insert whichever term? The answer is it depends. So you start to be able to benchmark, which is also really useful. Okie dokie. Then you're going to need to add a code. Now, what's called the tagging code, you're going to have to tag up your pages, basically, to show. And the reason we are doing it is we're taking a code from your analytics account, and you are inserting that to the top of every single page on your website. Now, don't worry, you are not the first. It's very unlikely you're the first person who's ever had to do this for your website builder, okay? And there are steps already written. Lots of people have trodden this path. This is why I find it best not to be an early adopter. Lots of people have trodden this path before. They've made all the mistakes. They've found all those intricacies that we might need. So the best way to do this is you head over to the admin section, and to be honest, when you first set up an account, it walks you through these steps, okay? And what you need to do is you need to add your tracking code to every page of your website. As I say, you're not the first person to do this. Best thing to do is to go to the CMS, either you give it to your boffins and they sort it out for you, or you take it to you go to the search pages, the help pages, the community pages for however your website has been built, if you've built it before, and you search for Google Analytics. And they will have, and I know this because I've helped scores of businesses do this over the years, they will have help pages that take you step by step by step through this process. It's a very common process. The good news is you only have to do it once. So get it set up right, and then you're going to have to tag all your pages. As I say, this has already been done by so many people. For the majority of cases, you get the setup one time right. You take that code from Google Analytics, you add it to your website, and then they know that it's okay and safe and allowed to send data back into. That's what you're trying to do with that unique code. Because obviously this data is personal to you and to your business. You want to have that securely held. Make sure you're the owner. You and the people you allow to are the people who do it. Okay, so it might be a plugin. It might be an area of a theme, a template, loads of different ways, depending on the language of the website builder you're using. But somebody will have done it before. So ask in the help pages. And then we come into, oh, and there we are. There's another one that's gone a little bit wonky. So there are basically, when we go here, let's go back to the very top. When I want to reset my Google Analytics, I just want to go right back up to the very top. Let's go in here. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go back to the home. All right. Okie dokie. It's just going to take a second. You are processing large volumes of data, and I'm also broadcasting at the same time. So this is going to be a little bit slow. So I've gone back to my home page by over on this top left hand here. I have a little picture of a house. These icons, as you go into them, let's hover over them. I hover over it. It opens on up. So I can see I've got home, I've got reports, I've got explore, and I've got advertising. Where we want to concentrate right now is in this reports area. Okay, so our reports, as we open them up, it takes a second, and we come into, we get our little dashboard with its, here we are. We have our snapshot. We have real time. which is generally, I only use it to check that the data is being sent back into. It's very unlikely that you have enough data in real time to be of much use to you. This is where I'm getting down to. I'm looking at my life cycle reports here, okay? So I've got acquisition. Acquisition is who are my, how did those people find me? How did I acquire those users, all right? I've got engagement, which is all about what are they doing? What are they engaging with on my site? I've got monetization, which is all about, are they taking the actions I want? If I've got a sales funnel, if I'm using a shopping module, you can pull all the data in there. And then down, and retention, are they coming back? Down here, I've also got some things around the user themselves. Who are those users? If you've used the old version, this all sorts of data used to be in audience. We're now looking at it in those user attributes. Okay, so what do I know about these people? Demographics, the kind of technology they're using. We get insights into some of the things about our users, all right? When you get all set up with that, that's what's going to happen. I'll just quickly show you here. Data in Google Analytics, is presented. You get the nice run charts and then you get tables. All right. And in terms of how the tables all work, you get the dimension, the what it is. So here we've got the channel grouping. So is it search? Did they come in directly? All those different terms. And then you get the metrics, the numbers across the top. And remember, you can hover over the titles of those metrics and it will show you what each term means. So for this one here it's a fairly standard report. How did people find us? Organic search, referral, direct. We can see that we had users, we had new users, we had sessions. All of those three numbers are different. They all give us a slightly different take on the number of people finding us. Where that gets really interesting is we might see how long they spent on the site. So you might find you get fewer users, but they are more engaged. All right then. So let's see how that relates to our questioning. All right. So remember, we were asking the right kind of questions. So let's think about reach. How do people find me online? All right. So with that reach, we're looking at how we acquire those people, how they find us. And you can basically, here we've got it, we're in the report, and I'm going to jump into acquisition here, okay? And I can see we've got an overview, we've got user acquisition, and we've also got traffic acquisition. My favorite report, probably in the whole, I can't believe I'm admitting to a whole internet full of people that I've got a favorite report. But if I go to traffic acquisition, this is where I would start probably any interrogation of this system, all right? Because I can come to my life cycle reports, I can look at acquisition and head to traffic acquisition, and I can say, okay, well, how are those people finding me? All right. So I can see on this one, lovely, lovely graphs, lots of pictures. And actually, can you see here? This is a really interesting, and this is live data. So over the so my dates here, last 28 days, I've got 4 weeks worth of data from 12th of July to 8th of August. Something really interesting going on here. Up for 5, down for 2, up for 5, really far down for 2, up for 5, down for 2. So that is here is my direct traffic. Direct traffic is people who know about me. Okay, so they've come to me, they haven't come through search or, an email or what have you. They have come to me directly. They already knew much about me. They've come in and they're coming 5 days and then at a lower rate on 2. What might that start to question? I'd be going back and seeing about weeks, weekends. Now, the next question then is it that people are at work when they're looking at my site? Therefore, they're only interested in me when I'm at work. Or is it that I'm not doing any activity on the weekend, so I'm not reminding people, especially if we saw that pattern in our social traffic? Maybe that's saying we're not putting our word out there on those. We're doing it on weekdays. I've seen businesses that have got 2 free days worth of sales and stuff because they weren't putting any messages, they weren't sending emails or doing any socials or any activity on the weekend because they worked Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And just by running an experiment and checking out what was going on those different days, they've been able to, change the way their businesses work. I'm doing it again. I'm getting carried away. So the first thing, if you want to get your reach, I want to be looking at that traffic acquisition and seeing how people are finding me. All right. And what we might do with that, we might, something that I didn't show you because I'm not sure how well it's set up here, is you can combine the data with your search console with your organic search and look at, are there particular search terms that are driving that organic traffic to my site, for example? Or am I doing more at the weekends and not at the weekdays? My next thing might be to run that experiment, to look into the search terms. The minute you start looking at the data and really understanding what's going on, extra questions. Why is that? Why? Imagine you're a 5-year-old, keep asking why, okay? You might take, if you found that you were doing loads on social media, but actually that wasn't translating to either visits or along the line, whether that doesn't turn into sales, how can you work to improve that pathway? So much that you could look at. Next, engagement, okay? So what are people engaging with them if they find me online? All right, so here we are. Now, in the old version, it was called behavior. Right now, we are calling it engagement. So let's jump in and we get an idea of all the different things somebody could do on your website. We'll jump into the overview, a great place to start. What we are seeing here is that people on average engage with us for, here it is, over the time. You can see it's going up for 5 and down for 2 again. Maybe not as obviously, but it's definitely there. 1 minute, 37 seconds on average that they are engaging. And look, here we can see the pages they're interested in as well. That might be really interesting. If we run a promotion offline and then we see that people are coming and viewing that product, we can see a change in that data. We can see it that our actions have or haven't had an effect. When we scroll on down here we can see different views. We can start to look at activity over time, what's going on. User stickiness is brilliant. If we were to look at particular pages and screens, let's just take a look at that one as an example because we've mentioned it. Here I can see that for this particular website, how engaging some different pages are. So you can really start to see, well, are they spending time on the different pages of my website? Just because it's 1 minute 37, I think was the average. Okay, well, average of 1 minute 37, I have got 49,000, the biggest number of views to this page, but actually they're only spending 13 seconds with there. I might find here 53 seconds on this page, which is my basket. That's interesting. Is 53 seconds good or bad? Do we want them quickly through the basket? Are we making it too complicated? It leads to way more questions. Okay. So the next thing you want to think about is, what are you going to do with that information, which is kind of what I've just really spoken about. Okay. Activation, getting to those bookings. This, if it's actual bookings we're going to look at, then you're going to want to be looking at your monetization. So say let's close that report down. If you are running e-commerce, you can set up the e-commerce funnel to match, and you can see when pages, lots of detail around that, very far beyond our just introductory session today. But even if you were not selling things on your website directly, you can jump back into that engagement. And remember, we were thinking about those pages and screens. We might be able to see from this which pages people are engaging with, how long. If I've got a page with a 30-second video and people are spending 40 seconds on that, I might be able to think, okay, they're seeing some of that video. Maybe I want to track that video playtime and that sort of thing. Really start to think about what you want to achieve and what you want to do with it. Okay, so for here, you want to check acquisition was something we were talking about. So really in terms of what you're actually going to do that, developing partnerships, getting under the skin of how do we drive more of those things. And then finally with the nurture, it might be about leaving reviews. It might be about using another platform to measure those. One thing that Google Analytics 4 is really trying to get into is when I close all those reports down again, is this idea of retention. Are people coming back? So there's a whole host of, here we've got new users versus returning users. Are there different things about people that bring them back more time? Okay, so we can start to think about those. All right then, my friends, we are pretty much jumping out of time. Let me just check back in with Daryl. Okie dokie. Here we are. Next steps. I spotted, I don't know who's done it, sorry, but about dashboards for your own use in GA4. Yes, what actually happens in the past, you had to create dashboards. And there's loads of things you can add filters and add different questions and, set up the reports your way. The best thing I've found is that actually you don't even have to actively set up those dashboards so much anymore. That homepage that we were looking at will start to mold itself to the things like frequently asked questions. It will start to mold itself to your frequently asked questions. So if you go to a certain report a lot, it's going to show you that report. It will also, phenomenally impressive, is the new version of analytics with its artificial intelligence will say, this has happened in your data. You might want to take a look. So it's a brilliant tool. It is well worth spending some time. Next steps, let me know what they are. Pop in and tell Daryl what your next steps are going to be. Maybe it's join us for some more broadcasts. Maybe it's to get yourself set up and signed in. Take another look at that Google Analytics, or take a look at the rest of your data sources and really get your head around which are the pieces of data that are going to help you. As I say, I like businesses to have a data plan. It might be to join us for a free one-to-one mentoring session. If you head over to g.co/UK mentoring. If you're a small business, you work for a charity and you're based here in the UK, we would love to spend an hour with you, helping you with your next steps. Other than that, thank you so much. Thanks for getting engaged. Thanks for chatting away to Daryl, keeping him on his toes. Hope it's been of use to you. We are running more Google Digital Garage broadcasts in all kinds of different subjects. So check out the link in the description below. Bear in mind that, we might go a little bit quiet for the rest of the month. We are tiding over, but we're really going to be ramping that up come September. There may even, if you're based here in the UK, there may even be face-to-face events. So keep an eye on our website. They tend to get loaded up a couple of weeks before. See where we're going around the country. You might be able to find somewhere and join us for the day. Other than that, thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks for Daryl to being a great moderator. We look forward to welcoming you again to another Google Digital Garage training session sometime soon. Have a great day.